I thought my life had already ended the day I buried my only son, that something happened that shattered that belief. In the darkest moment, when even breathing felt pointless, I was given a dream. Not the kind that fades in the morning, but one that rewrote everything I thought I knew. What I saw was not just for me. It was a glimpse of what is coming, and a whisper from the heavens calling us back before it is too late. There was a time when I walked in faith with confidence I had been raised. In a home where scripture was spoken daily, prayer was as natural as breathing. We thanked God before every meal and read from the Bible like it held the answers to life itself. Sundays were for worship and community. Back then, I truly believed God was watching over us. His presence felt near, like a quiet fire warming the cold. But then everything shifted. My son, the light of my life, passed away without warning. And when he left, so did my certainty. I tried to hold on, but my hands were empty. I begged God for understanding, for something to hold on to, but I was met with nothing but silence. That silence grew so loud, it drowned out every memory of faith. Night after night, I sat in the dark, asking questions I never thought I would have to ask. Was anyone listening? Had I been wrong all along? Each prayer felt like a whisper tossed into a canyon. No echo, no reply. The Bible stayed closed. My heart followed. Church pews that once brought comfort now reminded me of everything I had lost. I began to wonder if God had ever really been there at all, or if I had just imagined him because I needed to. The pain of losing my child broke something inside me that I did not know could be broken, and no sermon or song could reach that place. People said kind things. They offered words meant to comfort. They said God had a plan, and that one day it would all make sense. But those words felt like air. They had not held their child while life slipped away. They had not stood by a grave with shaking hands, hoping for a sign that never came. I stopped asking. I stopped hoping. I stopped believing. Each day became a performance, smiling when expected, nodding when appropriate. But inside I felt like a ghost. There was no joy, no peace, just an ache that would not let go. Then something unexpected happened. It was a night like any other. I had cried until there were no tears left. I lay in bed staring at nothing. I did not ask for a dream. I did not expect anything, but sleep took me, and that is when everything changed. In the dream, I was standing in a place filled with light, but it was not sunlight. It was brighter and softer at the same time. A light that felt alive, and in that light I felt something I had not felt in so long. Peace. Not the peace that comes from understanding, but the peace that comes from being held. Then I heard a voice. It was not loud, but it filled everything around me. It called me by name, and I knew deep in my soul who it was. It was the voice of God. There was no fear, only awe. His presence was not demanding, but full of power and love. He spoke to me with a clarity that left no room for doubt. You have walked away from me, but I have never walked away from you. I have seen your pain. I have counted every tear. You are not forgotten, and you are not alone. I wanted to speak, but no words came. I could only listen. My heart beat in my chest like it was waking up from a long sleep. Then the dream changed. I began to see things. Images like scenes from a movie began to unfold before me. Saw cities torn apart, not just by fire, but by anger. People turning on each other with hatred in their eyes, fighting for power, chasing their pride. There were no rules, only fear. Compassion had vanished. It looked like a world that had forgotten how to love. I saw families shattered, children wandering without guidance, homes broken not by war but by coldness and absence. People have lost the meaning of connection. Hearts hardened, eyes empty, and the scene shifted. Again, I saw churches. Some were abandoned, dust covering empty pews. Others were crowded, but filled with noise, not truth. Voices spoke, but hearts were quiet. The light inside those buildings was fading like a candle about to die, but not everything was lost. In the chaos, I noticed small groups gathered in silence, kneeling, praying. their heads bowed not in fear, but in humility, and above them was light, pure, strong, unwavering light. It covered them like a blanket, shielding them from the darkness. Pressing in them, the voice returned, "This world is nearing its hour. People have turned inward, chasing what pleases them and ignoring my whisper, but those who seek me will find me. Those who return will be guided. I have not abandoned the world, but time is short." Then I saw a clock large and looming. Its hands spun faster than they should. I felt the weight of time speeding up, and then everything stopped. A deep silence fell over everything. "Tell them I am calling. Tell them the door is open, but it will not stay that way forever. They must choose now." I awoke with tears running down my face. But for the first time in years, my heart did not feel empty. That dream was more than a message. It was a calling, not just for me, but for everyone. Asterisk, since that night, something inside me has shifted. I no longer wake up feeling like my soul is empty. Instead, there is a quiet strength in me, a calm. I thought I had lost forever. That dream has never left me. Its images, its message, its voice, they follow me like a shadow of light. I began praying again, not out of obligation, but out of longing. My words are simple now, not poetic, just real. God, I am here. God, I am listening. And when I pray, I no longer feel like I am talking to a wall. There is a presence again, not loud, not dramatic, just steady. I also began opening the Bible again, and somehow the verses speak differently now. The same words I had read years ago now feel like answers, sometimes even like warnings. I realized the dream was not just a personal moment, it was a glimpse into a greater truth. It was a mirror showing us who we have become. A world too busy for silence, too proud for surrender. I started sharing the dream with others. Not everyone believed me. Some listened politely and moved on. Some rolled their eyes, but a few looked at me with tears in their eyes and said, "I have felt that too." You saw something else in them. That same hunger, that same emptiness I had once carried. They were searching for hope in a world that felt colder every day. And to them I spoke without shame. Come back. He is still here. He has never stopped calling in. Time I saw changes, not big ones at first, but small. People began praying again. Families started reading scripture. At the dinner table, some even began gathering quietly in parks or homes. Nothing fancy, just people seeking something beyond the noise. I realized I was not alone. There are many of us. People who were broken, but now healing. Not because life became perfect, but because we no longer face it alone. And I began to notice the world more. I saw things I had missed before: children staring into screens while their parents sat in silence. Churches focused more on performance than truth. Politics preached louder than compassion. People forgetting how to speak to each other without anger. It is like we are all running towards something, but no one knows what it is. And the clock from my dream, it still echoes in my thoughts. Spinning too fast, time slipping, moments wasted. I know now that we are being warned, not with thunder or fire, but with silence, with dreams, with restless hearts. Something is coming, not to punish, but to wake us up. I believe we are being given a choice, not later now, to return to what is real, to turn back to the one who never left. Not everyone will understand. Not everyone wants to, but the door is open, and it will not stay open forever sometimes. I walk outside at night and look up at the stars. The sky feels deeper now, like it is waiting, and I wonder how many others are hearing what I heard, feeling what I felt. There is still time, not much, but enough, and so I speak this message wherever I can. On paper, in whispers, in prayer, because it is not mine to keep. It was given to me to be shared, and I will not waste it. If you're reading this and your heart feels heavy, if you have questions you're afraid to say out loud, if you have been running but do not know why, you are not alone. There is a voice calling, still calling you by name, not to shame you, but to lift you. All that is required is to stop, to be still, to listen The world will always try to distract you, to convince you that faith is foolish, but deep down you already know the truth. You just need to remember this. It's not the end. It never was. I started noticing something I had ignored for years. It was not just my own pain. It was the heaviness others carried silently. Strangers with tired eyes, families barely speaking, children looking lost, even in crowded rooms. Everywhere I went, I saw it. Emptiness behind the smiles, conversations that meant nothing, laughter that hid sorrow. People rushing through life like they were late for something they could not name. I realized how far we have wandered as individuals, as a world. We have drifted from what matters, and yet we keep pretending everything is fine. We chase success as if it will heal our hearts. We fill our homes with things but leave our souls empty. We distract ourselves from pain rather than face it. We have forgotten what stillness feels like, what silence can teach. Even in our churches, we sometimes miss the point. We turn sacred places into performances. We seek applause instead of transformation. We speak of God, but rarely listen for him, and all the while the clock is ticking. I remember that clock from my dream, its hands moving faster than they should, like time was being pulled forward, not by nature, but by choice. It is not just about days or years, it is about moments, decisions. Every choice either pulls us closer to truth or further away, and now I see it clearly. This is not a time to sleep through life. It is a time to wake up, to look inward, to return to the quiet voice that still whispers. Even when the world screams. One morning, I was sitting by my window. Sun had not risen yet, the world was still, and I felt that presence again. That same peace from the dream. It reminded me that God is not waiting in loud places. He waits in stillness, in honesty, in surrender. Since then, I have tried to live differently. Not perfectly, but with more awareness, more gratitude, more courage to face things I once avoided. I speak to people even when I do not know what to say. I listen more than I used to. I try to see the soul behind the face, because I know now how easy it is to feel invisible, to suffer quietly and believe no one notices, but he notices. That is the truth. Even when we think he is silent, he is watching, waiting, hoping we will turn around. And when we do, he does not meet us with anger, but with mercy. He does not remind us of how far we fell, but how far he is willing to go to bring us back. That is what changed everything for me. Not a miracle, not a sign in the sky, but a dream, a whisper, a realization that even when I gave up, he had not. That is why I keep speaking, even when my voice shakes, even when no one seems to listen, because I know someone will. Maybe someone like you. Maybe someone who is where I was, alone, angry, empty, asking questions that scare you, holding pain you do not know how to carry. If that is you, then please hear me. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are not too far gone. There is a way back. There is a hand reaching toward you, not to pull you into shame, but to lift you out of despair. The world will not offer that. It will offer distraction, temporary comfort, but not peace. Peace comes from truth, and truth is found in him, not in perfection, not in pretending, but in honesty. All he asks is that we come with all our mess, with all our fear, and just say, I am here. That is when everything begins to change. Asterisk, as I began to walk in faith again, the world did not magically change. There were still hard days. Grief still lingered like a shadow. But something was different now. I was no longer walking alone. Even in silence, I felt supported. Even in pain, I found purpose. Not because I had all the answers, but because I had finally stopped running. I started meeting others who had their own stories, stories of loss, stories of brokenness, stories of doubt that turned into discovery. It reminded me that everyone is carrying something. We are all trying to find meaning. Some search in success, others in pleasure. Some simply try to forget, but deep down, everyone is waiting for something real, something that lasts, something eternal. That is where he comes in, not as an idea, not as a religion, but as a presence that cannot be explained away. Sometimes I sit quietly and recall parts of the dream. The voice, the light, the images of a world that was falling apart, and I wonder how close we are to that moment. I feel it in the news, in the division, in the way people speak without listening, and how easily love is replaced by anger, truth by convenience. And I think of the clock again. Its hands spinning, time running forward faster than we realize, each hour another. Opportunity missed, each day another chance ignored. I remember the warning. The door is open, but not for long. It makes me want to speak louder. Not to scare, but to awaken, because we are not promised endless chances. There comes a moment when the invitation ends and what we choose becomes final. That thought once frightened me. Now it motivates me because I have seen what it feels like to be far from God, to sit in the silence, to wonder if anyone cares. And I have felt what it is like to come home again, not to a place, but to a presence, to the one who never stopped waiting. And so I live differently now, not in perfection, but in intention. I try to love more openly, forgive faster, speak honestly, listen without judgment, because we are not just called to believe, we are called to reflect, to be the kind of people who remind others of what is possible. I still struggle, I still fall short, but I no longer hide from that. I bring it to him, and he meets me in my weakness, not with punishment, but with patience. I think that is what surprised me most, that God is not angry like I imagined. He is tender, strong, but never cruel. He wants us to return. Not because he needs us, but because he loves us. That love is what gives me courage to speak, to write, to stand even when I am shaking, because I know someone somewhere is listening, someone who feels what I felt, who wonders if hope is still possible, if that is you. Let this be your sign. Let this be the whisper that breaks the silence. You are still loved. You are still wanted, you are still being called, and the door, it is still open. Asterisk, I often think back to the moment I woke up from the dream. Tears were still fresh on my face, but something had changed deep inside. The weight I carried for so long had finally begun to lift, not because I understood everything, but because I had seen enough to believe again. That dream was not just a comfort, it was a commission, a calling to speak, even when my voice trembled, to remind others that time is short but not over. Since then, my life has become a quiet mission, not with stages or microphones, but with moments, one person at a time, one conversation, one letter, one prayer. Sometimes I feel small, like my voice cannot possibly matter in this noisy world, but then I remember the voice I heard in the dream was not loud, yet it filled everything. That is how God works. Not always in volume, but always in power. There are days when I want to give up, when the world feels too heavy again, when fear tries to creep back in. But then I remember what I saw. The light, the groups praying beneath it, the shield of peace that covered them. That vision anchors me. It reminds me that I am not alone, and neither are you, even if you have lost everything. Even if your faith is hanging by a thread, even if you feel like it is too late, it is not. You are still here, still breathing, still being offered a choice to come home, to listen again, to say yes. Yes to the one who still whispers your name. Yes to the one who never stopped waiting. I do not know what tomorrow holds. I cannot predict how much time we have left, but I do know this: he is calling, not just me, but all of us, through dreams, through moments of silence, through that deep ache in your chest you cannot explain. He is not done, not with the world, not with you, but we must respond. We must stop pretending we have forever. The door is still open, but it will not stay that way forever. One day the clock will stop and the choice will be sealed. So while there is still time, while your heart is still soft, while you can still hear this message come back, return to the place where you were first known. Return to the one who shaped your soul, the one who sees every wound, every doubt, every regret, and still says you are mine. This is not about religion. It is about relationship. It is about restoration. It is about waking up before it is too late. So if you hear anything in these words, hear this: hope is still alive, grace is still real, and love, real love, still waits for you, but only if you